What do you see as some of the biggest challenges nonprofits are facing?
So in the past, when I was working in there directly, I think the idea that everybody's in firefighter mode and crisis mode all the time. And granted, it's just because there are a lot of crises. When you're working with vulnerable populations, that's just the life you live in because there's always things going on. So that's normal. The problem is once you get into those higher levels of leadership, you can't live like that day to day. You need to step back and think big picture, think strategically, think into the future. And really, your job should not be doing that day to day work. But they find a lot of leaders still find themselves holding on to that for lots of different reasons, right? But really, being stuck into that day to day work prevents longer term work from getting done or being envisioned and planned, progress being made.
I had never thought about it as like that constant firefighter mode, but that's a really good description of it.
And you're just in a hamster wheel. So it's not helpful and it's still going on. Even now, I just did a white paper where I walked through like barriers to implementing strategic plans. And so that's still a big issue for lots of nonprofits. That's one of the big barriers people still talk about is because of that lack of resources, it's forcing leaders to still be stuck in that day to day because there's not enough people to delegate to or do the work on a day to day. And
Yeah.
so it's getting harder and harder to take a step back as a leader and think strategically, plan, think ahead to the future. I think funding and granting and grants always is a big issue. And I think it's just getting harder and harder because I think a lot of organizations chase those grants and funding in order to, number one, stay alive, but
Yeah.
also that's their main source of growth. They find grants to open a new line of business or a new program, but there's actually no sustainable way of maintain that program. It's just through that one grant. And
Yeah.
they've now inherited an expense forever, and they have no way of actually solving that unless they get another new grant, a new line of business that helps offset these new debts. So it's a weird, unfortunate cycle. It's not a sustainable way to grow, and it really brings a lot of, or it puts a lot of nonprofits in a difficult situation because then they're always chasing new grants and building new things that aren't really in line with their strategic plan, and then they just get stuck in that.